Hi, my name is Anthony Menchaca, and this is my speech for Fundamentals of Oral Communication. My speech is about JFK and his life. These are my 5 people and a couple children. The life of John Fitzgerald Kennedy. John F. Kennedy, also known as Jack to his immediate family, he was born May 29, 1917 as John Fitzgerald Kennedy, born to Joseph Kennedy and Rose Fitzgerald. John was one of 8 children. He had 3 brothers and 4 sisters: Joseph Patrick Jr., Robert Francis, Edward Moore, Rose Marie, Eunice Mary, Patricia Helen, and Jean Ann. At 2 years old, John almost died of scarlet fever. All through JFK's life, he was a privileged child. He went to private schools, had nice toys and fancy things. Throughout John's high school years, he attended a boys' preparatory academy named Choate. He was a popular student, although he was untidy and rebellious. For example, he exploded a toilet with firecrackers. Other than being a prankster, John was also involved in sports. At Choate, his grades were unimpressive. Upon graduation, his yearbook stated that he was 5'11" and weighed 155 pounds. Mr. Kennedy graduated in 1935. After graduating Choate, John attended Princeton for a brief time. His application to Princeton stated his intended career was baking, and also included a Christmas card showing him and his fellow roommates dressed in tails. While at Princeton, he became a bachelor on a conquest, the pursuit of eligible women, which later became an obsession. Later on, JFK fell ill with Addison's disease that causes weakness, weight loss, blood problems, gastrointestinal distress, a disease that almost killed him twice, but this time he was determined to win. In just a few months' time, he had regained his health and all his strength, and soon would be returning back to school. In the fall of 1936, John had returned to school, but this time he would be attending Harvard. His brother Joe was currently enrolled and had already made his mark. John liked sports and decided to play football, even with his little frame. After John's freshman year, he went on a tour of Europe, where he found an interest in international politics. In the summer of his junior year, he traveled to destinations such as France, Poland, Latvia, Turkey, Palestine, Russia, and Germany. Meanwhile, he wrote long, detailed letters to his father, who was the ambassador to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, about the trouble between Germany and Poland, the life in communist Russia, and the Zion movement in Palestine. During John's last semester of college, most of Germany had been crushed by Hitler and his army. His father faced harsh criticism for his appeasement of Hitler. John still had his own thesis on the whole thing and developed them in his Harvard senior thesis. His book was published and called Why England Slept. In 1941, John decided to serve in World War II by joining the Navy. 2 years later, he became a certified American hero. He was a commander and lieutenant of a motor torpedo boat, PT-109. His boat was hit and sunk by an enemy vessel, but he managed to keep him and his men safe. He swam 3 miles back and forth in shark-infested waters to save his men. After the Navy, John worked as a reporter for the Hearst newspaper. He then parlayed his hero status into a Massachusetts congressional seat. His father called in numerous political debts and pumped out thousands of dollars into John's campaign. He won and became a congressman. While as a congressman, he supported health care, housing, and labor that were important in his working-class district at home. Although foreign policy was his true interest, John toured Asia and witnessed colonial oppression firsthand. In 1952, Kennedy won a seat in Senate that focused on containing the communists abroad. He believed that offering young nations freedom and development would stop the spread of communism. Also in 1952, John met and married his wife Jacqueline Lee Bouvier. Together they had 4 children, but their son Patrick Bouvier Kennedy had died in infancy. His children included Arabella, Caroline, and John Jr. On January 2, 1960, JFK announced his candidacy for the presidential seat. His opponent was Vice President Richard Nixon. It was the closest and most contentious election in American history. Kennedy won by 1% in the popular vote. On November 8, 1960, JFK was announced president. He was the first Roman Catholic president, and also the youngest president at age 43. Some events during his presidency included the Bay of Pigs invasion, the Cuban Missile Crisis, the space race, the building of the Berlin Wall, the African American Civil Rights Movement, and increased involvement in U.S. forces in Vietnam War. John's most famous quote was, "It's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country." During Kennedy's presidency, he was attempting to break apart the CIA. He believed that it was a corrupt and a mob. On November 22, 1969, John Fitzgerald Kennedy was assassinated by a man named Lee Harvey Oswald, or so it's believed.